latest in tech and accessibility. This is Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo.
Welcome back. Now, our next guest is a tech executive whose passion about design and development of hardware has landed him the role of Director of Product Accessibility at Microsoft. Now, he is an incredible individual who is very open about his life and experiences with cerebral palsy. Dave Dame, welcome to Access Tech Live.
Thanks, Stephen, for having me.
Dave, before we even get to your work with Microsoft, you've been very vocal about your CP. You said in a video, and I quote here, "My cerebral palsy doesn't hold me back. Rather, it's the environment to be able to accommodate my disability that holds me back." That says so much about you as an individual. Is that something you've always believed or something that you realized over time?
I think it's something I realized over time. Being born with a disability, you always kind of put it on yourself, right? What's wrong with me? Why is it that this is more challenging than some of my friends that are without disabilities? But then as the world began to change and things were becoming more accessible, I realized it wasn't really my disability, but the lack of my environment to accommodate my disability, which held me back. Because if you don't experience a barrier-free, accessible, or inclusive environment, you really don't know what is possible. And as I started experiencing it, as I got older and the world was getting more accommodating, I realized it was less about my cerebral palsy and more about my environment.
Dave, for those who don't know, Microsoft has a philosophy called "Nothing about us without us." I'm curious how that guides the approach to designing accessible products.
Well, we truly want to really listen to the community, right? Of people with disabilities. Like we try to learn a lot about disabilities, but you know what? We don't really live their lives. So we usually like to work hand in hand with the community and really put them beside great product makers so that way they can truly understand the challenges, the environments, the mismatches like we discussed previously in the environment. And then we look for creative ways to be able to solve for that mismatch or minimize it.
Now, Microsoft has publicly announced a 5-year commitment to improve accessibility and to help people with disabilities. Where do you begin fulfilling that? And how do you measure the success?
That's a great question. So my team, we work across windows and devices to really how we satisfy that commitment is we're trying to build products, hardware and software that are inclusive, that help people with disabilities either get into the employment world or to get into school, because that's where we think we can close the disability divide by ensuring we create the technology that enables them. And I believe the way we can measure it is just looking at like the national numbers as we get more and more employment, as we start to lead by example and really try to help the education sector of getting the technology needed to get them to be able to get skilled and upskilled. I think that's where we're going to be able to make the improvement, and hopefully we do measure it, but most importantly, hopefully we get to impact the lives of individuals to live full lives.
You know, Dave, you talk about working with the community. I'm curious what the community's response has been, those people that you do work with. I mean, you've got a great inclusive tech lab that gives people the opportunity to really go hands-on with products and develop new solutions. What has the response been? Is it overwhelmingly positive? I'm curious about that.
Well, we do get positive accolades for what we do. But our community is like every other user base, right? Where we probably have had a lot of great feedback from some, and then there's some areas where we can do better, and they let us know that as well. It's been really responsive. You mentioned the Inclusive Tech Lab. That really was Microsoft's commitment to inclusive design. And when we bring people in that either have disabilities, which is great to be able to touch the technology or even put them in front of great product makers to learn future products, I think it's just the openness of curiosity we bring, the passion we want to bring to really provide those opportunities, and the humbleness to know that we still can do better. And, as much as we've done, there's still much more to go.
Dave, I remember the last time I spoke to you, you were just off stage. We were talking about the launch of the adaptive accessories. You were up on stage at the Microsoft keynote not that long ago discussing this and having the chance to talk about your role in all of this. And adaptive accessories have really come on leaps and bounds, haven't they? And they've really caught the imagination of lots of people.
Yeah, it's taken on, and as the world's getting better at designing and building for accessibility, I think where we've been trying to leverage the last couple of years, Stephen, is how do we go to market with accessibility? How do we market or make it known these features are available and really ensure we do the right side of that process, that people are aware of it. We're letting the specialists know that this technology is available to offer maybe their clients or individual people that can work with their accommodations at work to really kind of inform them that these products are available that could really help their daily lives. And when you mentioned the keynote, we're trying to get the greater visibility on, just so we're aware, right? Because I know as a consumer with a disability, I don't always know what's out there. So a lot of it is, how do we make this consumable visible for everybody to see what's available to them?
And that work is really paying off, because we talk about it here a lot, Dave, about the fact that it seems like the commitment to accessibility is becoming more and more of a center stage event. So if that was the intention, it's definitely rubbing off. And this leads me perfectly into Copilot, because Copilot is it's the culmination of Microsoft's work with OpenAI and natural language models. How would you describe Copilot as it relates, to accessibility in Windows and Microsoft 365?
Well, I see what Copilot can do, how I use it. It really does a lot of those tasks that took me high effort to do, to make things a lot easier. Think about when the internet came out, Mark, we could use it to search and pull information. And then we would use that information to draft things. So we'd have to, copy, paste, edit, revise. Now we're getting to start at a higher starting point where we can say, you know what, give me a 5-bullet summary of what inclusive design is. And then we can refine it from that higher point to get efficiency, which really can help us generate and really incorporate a lot of documents quicker, and all the expertise to be an M365 expert or Windows expert. Now, using natural language, we can democratize the expertise needed so everybody can very effortlessly and frictionlessly create amazing documents and be highly productive. Because it's not reinventing the world, but it's simply just making those things that are valuable a lot more easier and intuitive to do.
Yeah, it's really it's quite cool, and we're going to dive into it. Stephen and I are going to attempt a live demo in a couple of minutes here, and you're going to be along for the ride watching us. Hopefully not fail too much.
I can be a co-pilot.
Well, exactly. Exactly. I want to ask you our question of the day before we go to a break. We're asking the audience, if you could have a personal artificial intelligent assistant that could master one area of your life, what would Dave Dame's answer to that question be, and why?
One thing, right? I would say simply help me to the washroom. Because when I have full autonomy to go to the washroom and be able to take for granted I'd have the assistants there and the right bathroom and available, my day just becomes a lot easier. And I know that's probably more rudimentary of the answer that you were expecting. But to me, that's one of the things I got to plan around and really kind of think about before I can even think about the rest of my day.
That's one great thing about these questions, Dave, is that there is no such thing as a wrong answer. And that's the question we pose to the audience. If you can have a personal AI that could be and master one area of your life, what would that be? Let us know. It's at Access Tech Live on all our social media. Dave, stick around. Don't make fun of us too badly on this demo that we're about to do right after we take a break here on Access Tech Live. And Dave, you're coming back.
We want to hear from you. Follow us on social media and get involved at Access Tech Live. We'll be right back. The latest in tech and accessibility. This is Access Tech Live with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo.
We're back on Access Tech Live, and Dave Dame is back with us from Microsoft. Dave, you may have just, I don't know, covered your ears, covered your eyes during that. I don't know what you thought of our live demo there. We showcased some of the Copilot features that are baked into Windows. How did we do?
I thought you guys did great. Like, live demos are probably the most scariest things you can do. And you guys did it great, and you were very articulate, and the curiosity in which you were exploring Copilot is what I hope a lot of the viewers do when they get a chance to experience it. Use curiosity and just push it to the limits to learn what it can do to improve your life.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's about how it can improve your life. And one area we were talking about there, of course, was with the accessibility features. I mentioned narrator and magnifier, just two of the many accessibility features that are already built into Windows. But how will that connect, do you think, across the operating system with all these accessibility features into Copilot?
Again, I think I missed a bit of that question.
So sorry, Dave, we were just asking about the accessibility features. I'm talking there about magnifier, narrator, all these different features that exist within Windows. How will Copilot work with those features to make computers easier to use for people?
Well, right now, as you showing on your demo, it's the awareness, right? It's showing people they don't have to know where to look for the information. They can just simply ask. So the first step is really just providing the knowledge. And as we evolve AI and use it further, who knows how much more things will do, sense, and respond, and maybe in the future suggest to users that they might take advantage of these features.
Dave, in designing Copilot, obviously there's so much work that goes into this. Like, as consumers, we're looking at this thing going, oh, let's play with this little chat window. But there's so much that goes into it. I'm curious what steps Microsoft has taken to make sure Copilot can be accessible to people, because it's not only about the context and the information that it delivers, but the experience itself needs to be accessible, right?
Well, I think you showed it right from the beginning, starting with multimodal input, right? You can either type it or you can use voice. I think in everything we try to do, especially when it's the Copilot, how do we create as many input and output options we can to use it, and really use the large language model for people to naturally ask for things. Like, I became a great storyteller because I couldn't draw or do images. But in your demo, now we can all create images to be able to supplement what we used to not be able to do, to allow us to express ourselves in ways we couldn't before. So not purely for accessibility, but it surely helps enable people who have challenges doing things that might not be labeled as an accessibility feature, but as an enablement feature.
I have to ask the question for the people at the back of the room who are terrified to put their hands up, Dave, and that is ask what an LLM is, because these are these terms that get thrown around, right? And we know what they are because we deal with this stuff every day, but a lot of people don't have a clue. So can you enlighten us?
Yeah, we usually like to use acronyms just to confuse people. It's large language models. So we try to build models of large dynamic language of all different phrases, words, to make it more human, right? We as humans have learned many different terms, vernaculars, analogies, and that's why it's easy for us to interact with each other. On the technology side, using large language models, we're trying to create that naturalness and flexibility for interactions just to make technology less scary and democratize it so it's more intuitive for everybody. Kind of like what the mouse did for people that, didn't always enjoy command prompting everything. The mouse allowed us to point where we can see. And now that we're using large language models, we can speak naturally and interact with it to really take advantage of this great technology without having to become an expert in it.
Dave, we talked earlier about accessibility taking a little bit more of a center stage approach, and in the last product keynote with the Surface Laptop Studio, it definitely got a spotlight because of the new haptic touchpad that was completely redesigned to allow people, obviously, who don't have hands to be able to use it and use it in different ways. Are we going to see the reinvention of some of this hardware to adapt to the different ways people use it more and more in the mainstream?
Yeah, what was great was it's not even just for somebody without a hand like Solomon, but it's also for people that might have arthritis, carpal tunnel, they might have low strength. And while we're trying to really put this right into the device, and I think Solomon said it beautifully in his keynote about it, usually as somebody with a disability, we got to bring all our peripherals with us whenever we travel, right? We don't have the luxury of just bringing our device. What we're trying to do in the next little bit is how do we try to incorporate all this amazing assistive kind of technologies right on the device itself to really alleviate the user from having to get extra peripherals, carrying them around with them. So that way people can simply get their device and start using it. So we're trying to make the device itself more flexible from day one to reduce the need of all the other things that you might need to tailor it to your specific needs. And the haptic trackpad was simply one of them.
Dave, we're out of time. Time flies so fast when we're doing this show. I wish we could have another 2 or 3 hours to dive into things with you. I wanted to talk about your scuba diving in Jamaica last week that I saw online as well, but we didn't get to that. So hopefully you'll join us again, and we can dive into way more about Copilot and, of course, everything and the incredible stuff that you guys are doing over at Microsoft.
I'm a huge fan of what both of you do. I always enjoy spending time with you, so I'll always make myself available for you. This is great conversation, and it's great for all the viewers.
We cannot agree with you more, Dave. Thank you so much for being with us. And you guys at home, of course, don't forget the question of the day. If you could have a personal AI system that could master one area of your life, what would that be and why? Those answers and Sean Priest are coming up after we take a quick break here on Access Tech Live. Stick around.
We want to hear from you. Follow us on social media and get involved at Access Tech Live. We'll be right back.